Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I'm just sitting here drinking my morning coffee, and I was thinking about some things. And I know this is a topic I cover pretty often, and because this is a very important topic to me, just ethically, morally, philosophically, this is something that I believe in a lot, and I feel like lifting can contribute to this. This is something the fitness community itself needs because I see so many young men, not just inside the fitness community, people lifting who really have no concept of what it is to be a man, but our society as a whole. And I think the real deal is that as someone who grew up in a different generation who had very, very strong male role models, I have a very different perspective on masculinity and what it is to be a man. And I feel like our society, Western society as a whole, has lost sight of that, partially due to lack of positive male role models in their lives, the kind of the destruction of the family, and too many men being raised by women who have deadbeat dads or dads who've walked out on them or not consistent father figures in their lives and maybe no grandfather to fill that role. And so I see a whole generation of young men who are struggling to be men, but they really don't know how to do it, and so they remain boys. And you definitely see that impacting the fitness world itself because you saw the previous generations of lifters and even bodybuilders in the 50s and 60s had a very different viewpoint than these guys who are working out today. These guys today are no longer concerned with strength and performance so much as just looking good and their aesthetics and being beautiful, which are generally considered to be feminine traits. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with females or anything wrong with feminine traits. I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with women wanting equal rights. I'm feminist in that regard. But modern feminism has attempted to destroy masculinity in society, and it has successfully done so. And I think it has weakened us as a society, and it leaves us vulnerable. It leaves us open to attacks. And if you look at the things happening in Europe these days, I think it's pretty obvious that that's what's going on. And to me, that's a very sad state of affairs. Now, for me, I had different role models. You guys know a little bit about my dad from other discussions we've had. But my dad wasn't really the same role model for me that my grandfather was. I had obviously two grandfathers, but both of my grandfathers were hard men, but they were real men. And I'm not saying they were always good men or always did everything right, because they didn't. My father's father was the children of Czechoslovakian immigrants. He was a father of 7 children. He ran a farm, he ran a ranch, raised free-range cattle, worked at a factory on top of that, had a big cornfield, so he grew corn, but he was also involved in illicit business and things in order to make sure that he had enough for his family to get by and to continue to expand their empire. The guy made moonshine with his corn. He grew marijuana in a little back corner of his cornfield that some of us kind of knew about. He didn't talk about it much. He didn't even smoke it, but he grew it and sold it back there because he had the land to do so. But he was a hardworking man, and he was a father of 7 children. None of his children ever went without. They all had cars by the time they were in high school. My grandmother didn't work. She just had to run the farmhouse and take care of the children. And he successfully did those things, but he was a very hard man. And then my maternal grandfather, naval officer in World War II, was on the Navy shooting team, was an Olympic shooter. He went on to be a businessman after all of that. He came from a working class background and built his way up to where he had millions in savings when he passed away. He was a world traveler, businessman, an athlete, a former officer, and he was my biggest role model. He spent a lot of time with me during my childhood growing up when my father was on the road working and doing other things, just influencing me and spending time with me. And to me, he was a very positive male role model. He was a very strong, almost like father figure for me. And that is something that so many young men lack today. They don't have these strong men like our grandfathers were to teach them what it is to be a man anymore. And I think it's important for those of us who speak here as public figures now. We have followings of these young men here on the internet. We come from a previous generation, and we see this generation of young men who are no longer men. And I think it's important for us to use our positions as public figures with an audience to try to teach young men how to be men again. Because if we do not do so, our society is going to become too weak, and it will be taken over and dominated and destroyed by a stronger society. Because that is the nature of reality. That is human nature. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. If you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to click like down below. If you do, thank you so much. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.